There's something quietly fascinating about human relationships. We go through life assuming the people we love and trust naturally have our best interests in mind. And sometimes they truly do. But other times, we've mistaken their comfort for our happiness. We've spent so long saying yes that we've forgotten how to say no. So we keep agreeing, keep showing up, keep stretching ourselves thinner and thinner until one day the reflection staring back feels unfamiliar. When did we become this person who lives entirely for everyone else? Now pause for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you did something purely for you? Not for duty, not for expectation, not to keep the peace, but simply because it made you feel alive? Was it last week? Last year? Or does the memory escape you entirely? Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being a priority in your own life. You became a resource, a solution, a pair of steady hands to repair what others have broken. And through it all, no one stopped to ask if you were weary. No one checked if you still had strength left to give. They just assumed you'd always show up, reliable, ready, selfless. That's what we're exploring today. Not the dramatic heartbreaks, but the subtle thefts, the quiet ways people drain your peace, chip away at your time, and leave you wondering why you feel so empty afterward. The truth is, it's rarely blatant. They don't announce, "I'm about to take advantage of you." They arrive with sadness, with guilt, with words designed to disarm you. But you're my friend. You're my parent. If you cared, you'd understand. And just like that, you inherit burdens that were never yours to carry. So let's talk about 5 things people will ask of you, requests that sound perfectly reasonable, but are anything but, and why avoiding those who make them may be the most self-respecting choice you ever make. The first thing they'll want is for you to shoulder their responsibilities as if they were your own. You've probably seen this play out. Someone close, your son, your daughter, your sibling, approaches you not with a request for guidance, but with a transfer of obligation. Their crisis becomes your emergency. They say, "I don't know what to do," or "I'm drowning," or "Can you help me just this once?" And because your heart is kind, you step in. You lend time, money, advice. You fix what they broke. But what begins as compassion quickly turns into dependency. Before you realize it, you're not helping anymore. You're managing their life. You're making their calls, paying their debts, watching their children while they continue repeating the same mistakes. And when you finally dare to set a boundary to say, "This isn't mine to carry," what do you receive? Shock, hurt, accusations of selfishness. How could you withdraw support? Don't you care? But ask yourself this: when did their inability to face their life become your life sentence? Because that's what happens. You trade away your rest, your peace, your ambitions, all so someone else can keep running from accountability. Think of it this way. Picture yourself walking down a path with a backpack on your shoulders. It's already heavy. It holds your hopes, your duties, your quiet fears. Then someone you love appears, struggling with their own pack. And instead of helping them balance it, you take it from them entirely. For a moment, it feels noble. You feel useful, important, but soon your back aches, your steps slow, and they walk lighter, freer, while you collapse under the combined weight. That's what happens when you live your life solving other people's problems. You end up carrying twice the load, while they learn nothing about strength. And the cruel irony is, the more you help, the less they grow. Because every time you rescue them, you confirm that they don't have to change. You've removed the consequences that would have forced maturity. You've made comfort their teacher instead of experience. Here's the truth no one likes to admit. Sometimes love becomes a disguise for control. We say we're helping because we care, but deep down we fear what might happen if we don't. We fear their failure, their anger, their distance. So we keep carrying their weight, convincing ourselves that sacrifice equals virtue. But real love doesn't mean shielding someone from reality. Real love allows them to face it. And you? You deserve to walk your path unburdened. You deserve to rediscover what your own life feels like when it's not consumed by others' chaos. Because responsibility, once handed over, rarely finds its way back. The moment you accept it, it attaches itself. And unless you let it go, you'll spend your life mistaking exhaustion for compassion. So the next time someone hands you their crisis, pause. Look at the weight they're offering. Ask yourself, is this truly mine to carry? Because every time you say yes when you mean no, you disappear a little more. Every time you rescue someone from consequences meant to teach them, you delay their growth and destroy your peace. And maybe it's time to stop confusing kindness with servitude. Time to remember that love without limits isn't love at all. It's surrender. And then before long, someone appears beside you and says, "Could you hold mine too? Just for a little while?" So you do, because kindness is your reflex. But then another arrives and another, until suddenly you're doubled over beneath the weight of everyone else's burdens while they stroll ahead, light and carefree, expecting you to keep pace. This isn't compassion, it's exploitation disguised as love. And the cruel irony is, the more you give, the more they demand. They don't notice your struggle because they're too busy enjoying their freedom. And when you finally crumble from exhaustion, they won't come to lift you. They'll be confused, maybe even irritated, that their constant source of strength has gone silent. You were never meant to be the support beam for adults unwilling to stand on their own. You're not a net for those who leap recklessly, assuming you'll always catch them. And now you have to ask yourself, why do you keep doing this? Is it truly love or is it fear? Fear of rejection, fear of being labeled selfish, fear that boundaries might cost you affection. But here's the hidden truth. The people who vanish when you draw a boundary were never truly connected to you. They were connected to what you provided. The moment you stop giving, they stop showing up. And that alone tells you everything about the bond you thought you had. So let's be clear. If someone expects you to carry what they refuse to carry themselves, if they keep turning their chaos into your crisis, their comfort into your duty, you owe them nothing. Not maybe. Not I'll think about it. You owe them a firm, unapologetic no. Because your life isn't a permanent rescue operation for those who won't save themselves. Now let's talk about the second thing people will ask of you. Money. To borrow it, to just get by, often with no real plan to repay it. This one is delicate, isn't it? Money and relationships rarely mix without leaving a stain. Someone you care for approaches, voice trembling, story convincing. They need help, and quickly. Just a small loan, they say, just until next week, next month, until things turn around. You want to believe them. You want to help. So you lend the money because you're kind, because you trust their word, because you think, if I were in trouble, I'd hope someone would do the same for me. And for a moment, it feels good. You've saved the day. You've proven your loyalty. You've been the helper again. But soon something changes, or rather, something doesn't. The repayment never comes. And when you gently bring it up, they look wounded. They remind you of their hardships. They imply that mentioning it makes you cold or petty, or they reassure you that it's coming soon, very soon, and you want to believe it, so you do. Then weeks turn to months, months to years, and that money dissolves into silence. But worse than losing the money is the loss of trust that follows. Now, every time you see them, a quiet tension hangs in the air. You remember what they owe, and they know that you remember. Yet instead of honesty, they offer avoidance. They dodge the subject, or unbelievably, ask to borrow again. Let's call this what it is. When someone takes money without any real plan or capacity to return it, they're not borrowing, they're taking, and they're counting on your discomfort to keep them safe. They know you fear making things awkward, that you value relationships over confrontation, and they weaponize that against you. They rely on your goodness, your patience, your desire to keep peace. They know that talking about money feels cheap, even shameful, that you'll hesitate before making it about dollars here, so they exploit that hesitation. They've learned that your silence is their loophole, and as long as you keep prioritizing harmony over honesty, they'll keep using it. Here's the painful truth. Every time you let someone blur that boundary, you teach them how to treat you. You teach them that your generosity is limitless, that your forgiveness has no expiration, that your wallet is an open door with no lock. And the more you let it happen, the less they respect you. Because people don't value what comes without accountability. So what should you do? You draw the line. You stop explaining, stop justifying, stop softening your no. You remember that compassion doesn't mean compliance. That being kind doesn't require being naive. You learn to say, no, I can't help you with that, without guilt, without apology.
Because here's something most don't understand. Saying no doesn't make you unkind. It makes you conscious. It shows that you recognize manipulation for what it is, that you understand the difference between temporary help and permanent enabling. And remember this: true friends, real family, genuine partners will never make you feel guilty for protecting your stability. Only those benefiting from your exhaustion will call you selfish for setting limits. Ask yourself this: if they truly valued your relationship, would they jeopardize it by taking your money? If they truly respected you, would they make promises they never planned to keep? Of course not. What they're really saying is that their immediate comfort outweighs your security, that their wants matter more than your stability. You've become, in their eyes, a living bank account, something to withdraw from, never to replenish. And here's the harsh reality: lending money rarely fixes what's broken. Because when someone's financial struggle runs deeper than circumstance, your loan is only a temporary patch. It may plug one hole, but another will appear soon enough. Next month, a new crisis, a new story, a new plea. And once you've helped once, they know you're an easy mark, a reliable well they can draw from again. Now maybe you're thinking, but what if it's a genuine emergency? That's fair. Sometimes people truly need help. But there's a difference between aiding someone in crisis and enabling a pattern of irresponsibility. Real emergencies are rare. They're the medical bill you never saw coming, the car that breaks down on the way to work, the sudden job loss no one could predict. And even then, a person with integrity will do everything they can to repay you. They'll make a plan, send small amounts, show accountability. But if the same person comes back again and again, living in a state of endless emergency, that's not bad luck. That's a lifestyle of bad decisions. And your money won't cure that. It only delays their reckoning with their own behaviors. So what should you do? You protect yourself. You recognize that lending to people who won't repay isn't compassion. It's self-sabotage. You've worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to see your effort drained into someone else's bottomless need. Your savings aren't community property. Your peace of mind isn't a donation box. Anyone who asks you to jeopardize either is not thinking of your well-being. They're thinking only of themselves. And if someone truly needs help, there are wiser ways to offer it. You can share knowledge. You can help them plan a budget, point them toward financial counseling, or connect them with resources that teach discipline instead of dependency. But handing over cash, especially in large amounts, especially without clear terms, is a trap. It's not generosity. It's an invitation to resentment. And at this stage in your life, you've earned the right to peace, not tension. Now we come to the third thing people will ask of you: to choose sides in conflicts that were never yours. This one is especially toxic because it disguises itself as loyalty. Someone you love is in conflict with someone else you love. Maybe two of your children are at odds. Maybe siblings are fighting. Maybe extended family has fractured into factions. And suddenly you're caught in the middle, pulled by both sides, each pleading for your understanding. They present their version, their hurt, their righteousness. And then comes the question that corners you: whose side are you on? What a cruel trap that is. Because no matter what you say, you lose. Take one side and the other feels betrayed. Stay neutral, and both will accuse you of indifference. Try to mediate, and when peace inevitably falters, they'll blame you for the fallout. You become the target instead of the bridge. Here's what's truly happening. They aren't asking for your wisdom, they're asking for validation. They want you to declare them the victim, to endorse their story, to crown them right and the other wrong. They're not seeking truth, they're building armies. They want allies, not insight. They crave victory, not resolution. And the question you must ask yourself is simple: what do you actually gain by joining their war? Even if you somehow broker a fragile truce, what have you accomplished? Because when people are genuinely ready to heal, they won't need you to referee. They'll take responsibility. They'll find peace through accountability, not alliances. And people who aren't ready to change will simply repeat the same argument, probably over something equally trivial, and once again expect you to orbit their chaos. Meanwhile, what happens to you? You lose your calm, your neutrality, your ability to love both sides freely. Because once you've chosen a side, once you've declared one right and the other wrong, you've planted a seed of division that may never fully die. From then on, every conversation feels cautious. Every family gathering carries a hidden tension. Every shared moment requires careful diplomacy. And all of it for what? To solve a conflict that was never yours to begin with. To referee emotional battles between adults who should be capable of handling their own disagreements. That's not wisdom. It's volunteering for needless suffering. There's an old truth that says when two people fight, the third who steps between them gets struck by both. And it's accurate. No matter how fair you try to be, no matter how gently you try to balance your empathy, at some point each person will decide you failed them. They'll remember not your effort, but your refusal to take their side. And the reward for your good intentions will be frustration from all directions. So, what's the solution? Simple. Don't step in. When someone brings you their grievances, you listen, respectfully, but you don't enlist. You acknowledge their emotions without choosing their perspective. You don't become their warrior. You don't deliver messages between feuding camps like an emotional courier. You say with calm but unwavering kindness, "This is between you and them. I love you both, and I'm not choosing sides. You'll need to sort this out together." Will they like that answer? Probably not. They might resist, guilt trip, or accuse you of not caring. They might say, "If you really loved me, you'd support me." But that's when you hold your line, because what you're truly doing is honoring everyone involved. You're showing faith in their ability to resolve their own mess, protecting the relationship from bitterness, and preserving your peace by refusing to become ammunition in someone else's war. Your purpose at this point in life isn't to mend every fractured bond in your circle. It's to keep your serenity intact, to care for people without being consumed by their drama, to be present without being pulled. That balance requires boundaries, clear, gentle, immovable boundaries that say, "I love you, but I won't be drawn into this." And that brings us to the fourth thing people will ask of you, to change who you are so they can stay comfortable. This one cuts deep because it wears many disguises. Sometimes it's blunt, sometimes subtle, but the message never changes. You're too much or too little or wrong or outdated. And of course, they believe they know exactly how you should be instead. Maybe it's your clothes. They say you dress too conservatively, too boldly, too young, too plain. Maybe it's your beliefs. They want you to soften your opinions, to stop speaking your truth, to be less set in your ways. Maybe it's your passions. They roll their eyes at what brings you joy, dismiss it as silly, trivial, or childish. Or maybe it's bigger. Maybe they want you to uproot your lifestyle, move elsewhere, start over, live differently. And here's what makes it so painful. These demands usually come from those who claim to love you. Not strangers online, not distant critics, but the people closest to you, family, friends, loved ones whose approval you cherish. And they disguise their discontent as concern. They'll say, "I'm only worried about you. I just want what's best. If you'd just change this one thing, everything would be better." But better for whom? That's the question they hope you don't ask. Because when someone asks you to alter something essential about yourself, they're not thinking about your happiness, they're thinking about theirs. They're uncomfortable with your truth. Maybe they're embarrassed by it. Maybe it clashes with the image they want to project. Maybe your authenticity reminds them of what they've lost in themselves. Whatever the reason, their need for comfort outweighs their respect for your individuality. And instead of accepting you as you are, they try to sculpt you into something easier to digest, something smaller, safer, neater. But think about what they're really requesting. They're not asking for growth, they're asking for disguise. They're asking you to perform, to wear a mask, to hide the quirks and colors that make you unique. They're asking you to exchange authenticity for approval. And that's a terrible bargain. Because the moment you agree, you begin to vanish. You start editing yourself, trimming edges, softening truths, dimming light, all to keep others comfortable. And slowly, you lose sight of who you were before you began performing. You become a version of yourself shaped by others' comfort zones, not your own values. That's not love, it's erasure. The people who truly love you don't want a tailored version of you. They want your truth, your strangeness, your laughter, your flaws. They may not always understand you, but they won't ask you to shrink to fit their frame. Because love without acceptance isn't love, it's control. So when someone tells you you've changed, or you should be more like this, pause and look closely. Are they speaking from care or from control? Are they inviting you to grow or demanding you conform? Because one brings freedom and the other takes it away. Never forget this. Being yourself might make others uncomfortable, but betraying yourself will make you miserable. And that's a cost you can't afford to pay anymore. That's nowhere near a fair exchange. Because who would you even be without your quirks, your preferences, the little sparks that make you unmistakably you? Here's the irony. The very people who demand you change are usually the ones who've changed the least. They've never looked inward, never questioned their own habits or beliefs. They move with the current, do what's expected, and then expect you to follow the same path. And when you don't, when you stand your ground, when you stay true to yourself, they take it personally. But you've lived long enough to know something they haven't yet figured out. Other people's opinions are just noise. They're not truth. They're not commandments. They're just thoughts floating in someone else's head about how they believe you should live. And you owe them nothing. You are not required to mold your existence around someone else's imagination. Now, this isn't to say you should never evolve. Growth is vital. Learning is sacred. But there's a vast canyon between changing because you want to become stronger and changing because someone else can't handle your realness. One is empowerment, the other is fear. One adds to your soul, the other chips away at it. So when someone insists that you should be different, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this request coming from genuine love for my evolution or from their discomfort with my identity? Is this about helping me rise or about making me smaller so they can feel taller? And if you recognize that what they really mean is be less you so I can feel at ease, then the only correct response is a clear and final no, not a maybe, not an I'll try, just no. Because here's what they fail to understand. You've earned the right to be exactly who you are. You've endured enough years, enough storms, enough heartbreaks to know yourself deeply. You've paid in lessons, in tears, in time. And if someone can't embrace that truth, if your authenticity is too bright for their comfort, that reveals everything you need to know about them. It means they're in love with the version of you that fits their story, not the real you standing in front of them. And that isn't love, that's theater, that's an arrangement where you perform and they applaud. And you, at this stage of life, are done with performing. So wear what you love without apology. Listen to the music that stirs your spirit. Stand by the beliefs you earned through decades of living. Be unapologetically yourself. And those who can't handle it, let them redirect their criticism elsewhere. You've come too far to start hiding now. Now let's talk about the fifth thing people will ask of you, to surrender your peace so they can stay comfortable. This might be the most dangerous request of all, precisely because it rarely comes as a request. It sneaks in disguised as duty, as loyalty, as love. It doesn't sound like, please ruin your peace for me. It sounds like, I just need you right now. Can you help me again? You're the only one who understands. It begins with someone in your orbit, someone restless, unhappy, or perpetually dissatisfied. Maybe they're stuck in a situation of their own design. Maybe they're weighed down by choices they refuse to face. Whatever the case, instead of doing the hard work to find balance, they outsource that labor to you. They expect you to hold their sadness, absorb their frustration, carry their chaos. They call you at midnight, needing to vent. They drop by without warning, needing to unload. They depend on your steadiness, your empathy, your energy, and little by little, they drain you, emotionally, mentally, financially, until you're the one collapsing under their unspoken expectations. And if you dare to set a boundary, if you attempt to reclaim your breathing room, they turn the guilt up full volume. How can you be so distant? I thought you cared. Don't you love me? But what they're really communicating is this. My emotional comfort matters more than your mental health. My storms are more important than your calm. And that's manipulation dressed in sentiment. Because genuine love doesn't demand self-abandonment. Real connection doesn't require one person to shatter so another can stand. Here's the truth. You can care without carrying. You can love deeply without losing yourself. You can be compassionate and still say, not right now. Protecting your peace doesn't make you cruel, it makes you conscious. The people who truly value you will understand your need for rest, your desire for quiet, your right to boundaries. The ones who don't will try to convince you that peace is selfish, that your stillness is neglect. Don't believe them. Because if you give away your peace long enough, you'll wake up one morning and realize you've got nothing left to offer, not to them, not to yourself. Your peace is sacred. It's not a currency to buy approval. It's not a bargaining chip to keep others happy. It's the foundation that everything else in your life depends on. Guard it the way you guard your breath, because once it's gone, everything else starts to crumble. What they're really saying is this: my needs matter more than your peace. You should surrender your serenity so I never have to face my discomfort. But that's not compassion. That's emotional tyranny. Because let's make something clear. You cannot carry another person's emotional weight without sinking beneath it. You cannot heal someone else's sadness. You cannot love them enough, fix them enough, or give enough to make them whole. That kind of healing, that quiet rebuilding from within, that's their work, not yours. And yet so many people, especially those who've spent years caring for others, fall right into this trap. They confuse love with endless availability. They believe compassion means constant access. They think that if they give more, stretch further, sacrifice harder, maybe then they can rescue someone from their pain. But it never works that way. Because what you're actually teaching them is that they never have to face themselves. You become the crutch they lean on instead of learning to stand. And the longer you do it, the heavier it becomes, until you're both collapsing under the strain. So here's what must change. You have to guard your peace like it's your most priceless possession, because it is. Peace of mind, the ability to wake without dread, to move through your day without carrying someone else's storms. That's not luxury, that's survival. And anyone who asks you to trade that for their comfort is asking too much. Now that doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become hard or distant. It means you practice love that doesn't destroy you. You support people without dissolving into their chaos. You show kindness without taking on their burdens as your own. You care, but you don't carry. And when they resist, when they accuse you of being selfish, unkind, uncaring, you stand your ground. Because you understand something they don't. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's essential. And the people who genuinely love you will never demand that you abandon yourself to prove your love to them. They'll want you peaceful, not depleted. They'll want you whole, not hollowed out. So, there you have it. 5 things people will ask of you that you must decline. They'll ask you to carry their responsibilities, to lend money you'll never see again, to take sides in conflicts that aren't yours, to change who you are, and to sacrifice your peace so they can stay comfortable. And if you're wondering how to do it, how to say no after a lifetime of saying yes, here's your answer. You do it with grace, but you do it firmly. You don't over-explain, you don't justify, you don't negotiate. You simply express your boundary, and then you honor it. Because here's the secret no one teaches you. The people who respect you will accept your limits. They may not celebrate them, but they'll honor them. They'll understand that boundaries aren't walls, they're the framework of respect. But the ones who fight your boundaries, who guilt or shame or punish you for having them, those people have just revealed their truth. And that revelation, though painful, is priceless. By now you've lived long enough to understand that life is short, that peace is fragile, that once it's fractured, it takes years to rebuild. So treat it like oxygen, something essential, something sacred. Guard it fiercely. Refuse to give it away just to keep someone else comfortable. Your time, your energy, your sanity, these are not community property. They belong to you. Not to the expectations of others, not to their guilt, not to their constant demands for more, to you. And the most radical, courageous act you can take now, after everything you've endured, is this: live your life entirely on your own terms.